So we were chanting the Mangala Sutta this morning in English, and I was appreciating the teachings in that sutta, which in some ways are, very clear and really sort of not esoteric. It's like, they're not easy, they're not difficult to understand. With speech that is well spoken, associating with the wise, not associating with foolish people, giving up harmful ways. These are not jargon. But then also contemplating these various fields that are presented. And fields mean something like a group effect. In the sense, not a particular point, but a field. For example, the field of what you associate with. Who's in your field? Well, let's withdraw from the foolish. Let's associate it with the wise. So it's a sense of being collected in that particular field, honouring that which is worthy, those who are worthy of honour. So right in the centre of that field, you place the upright mind, right? Obviously the Buddha is an example of that, prime example of that. But really we'll say, the act of honouring, you're centering the field of the beings you associate with around this simple, clear principle, that which is honouring. And it's a lovely phrase because it doesn't mean trying to become that or comparing yourself with, but honouring. So the act of honouring, your heart rises up, isn't it? That's the beauty of puja. When you honour, right? To honour something, your heart has to rise and, lift. So it brings you upright. When you honour the Buddha, you don't say, "Oh, that was nice, Buddha, thanks very much, that was a good day, shake hands." No, it's not that casual kind of thank you. It's you, when you're in the presence of the Buddha, you're upright, aren't you? And that sense of the heart going up into that, this is beautiful, this is deep, and then rising. And that sits in the centre and then of your field, that's the marker, that's the nimitta of that field. Around that, these are the people who fit into that at this time, and these don't. You're not cutting people out, it's so much as just that they exclude themselves because they're not in line with that which is worthy of honour. And of course, if you look at that as a final, fixed statement, it's not quite true, because I think sometimes we are foolish, and that may be for a period of time, or a day, or a moment, or an hour. And then as soon as you come back into being wise again, they can, you're in. And so just don't take these things too, legalistically. And knowing oneself, what one is in line with that which is worthy of honouring. Which is really upright. And that peaceful quality of Buddha. It's not strained upright, it's not rigid upright, it's peaceful because it's balanced and poised. And when are you like that? When is that there for you? How does that come for you? Well, so the field itself helps to, generate the centre. So if you're associating with wise people, pick up the modes, the behaviours, the tonalities, the qualities they don't bother with, things they do focus on. You pick that up sympathetically, and you get this crystallising principle in the middle of it that rises to the centre. Scrupulous, whatever it is for you. Scrupulous, peaceful, easy, malleable. Someone who accepts their weaknesses and is ready to correct them. And really then The rest of the sutta, that kind of lines some of that up. We are realizing our shortcomings and ego, interested, willing to be heard, to know about them, and then that's worthy of honour, isn't it? It'd be great not to have any, of course. That'd be worthy of honour, but having some and being willing to listen to it and make an effort to change it, that's also profoundly worthy of honour. And you don't get to one without the other. So how do we cultivate making mistakes, blundering, losing balance, and draw ourselves into upright rather than getting uptight? Because the field is sympathetic, the field is kind, the field is compassionate. It's not saying we chuck you out. It means, no, we don't throw you out. What happens if you don't line up with this? You fall out. It's up to you, really. And we would like you not to fall out, to decline. So these are qualities that help to re-establish your balance. And this is the sort of skill of training. And this sutta does point out all principles of training. But it's always in context of a field, the field of the human associations, one's family or community, looking after each other within that, supporting each other, cherishing the family. The family is our Dhamma family, or our Sangha family, or our, and that's a principle worthy of honour. Training oneself, skilled in craft and discipline, it means you've got a certain interest in refinement. You take up any craft or discipline, whether it's wood carving, calligraphy, Tai Chi, or whatever it is, you realise it can't be tight. You get tense, you lose the balance. And the balance really is that which the field provides. It's kindly, compassionate, no learning from the imbalances, the tensions, relax that. A little more energy here, pay attention there, withdraw attention there. You're gradually finding yourself lining up. And if you're doing any kind of craft, you need to know certain things. One is what your own body is capable of, body, mind is capable of, also what the material is capable of, and what your tools are capable of. So it's very holistic, isn't it? You want to do wood carving, you don't know what a chisel is capable of doing, you're going to make a mistake. If you cut across the grain, you splinter it. You don't know what the wood is out, you make a mistake. If you're not standing, holding the tools correctly, properly, you're going to make a mistake. You're going to get the whole thing lined up. And each error will teach you perhaps which bit you weren't really attentive to. Where you put too much effort on holding the tools tight. Now you don't need to hold them that tight. If you hold any one detail too tightly, you lose the whole picture. And this is the training, because it's often the case. We think that to get things right, we tighten up on a detail. But this often means you lose out the other bits. So you can be a very good student studying, but you don't know how to speak correctly. You don't know how to put things across slowly and patiently. Because when you read things and study things, it's different from communicating it. One can sit quite well, but walking can't do. Walking meditation just don't feel very steady in it. Or you can meditate in stillness quite well, but once you get into a group activity, you get flustered and agitated, and you start losing your balance, getting chatty and garrulous, or frightened and nervous. It's the ability to go to the field of what you're in. It's your own body, the group, what the event is about. Feeling for that. Bring in the quality of listening to it, tuning into it, and then aiming for what is really honourable, steady, attentive. Looking for the balances. And that's your meditation process, wherever you are, whatever you're doing. Being in that. You take something like standing meditation. Standing meditation, that's this, it's very useful because you can see even in a simple thing like standing up and standing still for 15 minutes, half an hour, or even longer. Surprisingly simple, surprisingly difficult. Because most people tend to stand leaning on the hips, or used to shifting from one foot to another, propping themselves on an elbow, and to stand so that the whole body is included, from the crown of the head down to the feet, requires a scan of the whole form, first of all, and the upright sense, which is the guiding theme within that. And then you begin to piece in how the details will fit around that. It's like these are mandala processes, rather than flat, linear, like this and that and this and that. You get the whole picture first of all, then you look at the constituent factors within that, and you begin to see how they fit together. So the first thing, the whole form, then the upright. Right? Then you look for something like balance. You're leaning forward, leaning to one side, leaning back, balance. Then you look for something like tension. Feel a bit tight in the belly or in the shoulders, relaxing that. And then look for something like cohesion. So cohesion means no one part is doing more work than any other part. No one part is skipping out, is missing. So there's everything there together. So you can find maybe there's, your legs are doing a lot of work and your belly's sort of sagging. Okay? You just need to adjust your tailbone, relax down the backside. And you've got just slight shifts of balance so that all the muscles are awake. And what they're doing is trying to, or cooperating so that the weight is being carried by the bones as much as possible. So if any muscle that's tightening up, something wrong there. Yeah. Any muscular area that feels gripped, that's something wrong there. Any place that's sort of just sagging, head is lolling forward, there's something wrong there. And you keep tuning into the upright and bringing everything together around that. And the beauty of it is, if you cultivate that, all the weight is being carried down through the bones into the ground. And areas of your body that you got used to not really feeling begin to be sensed. The soles of your feet open up because they're no longer closed by the compression in your feet. When your feet wear shoes, they're often compressed. So coming out of that, the soles of your feet begin to open up. You feel the entire sole of your foot, quite a lively, vibrant area. And then And you balance everything above those 2 feet. And the quality of balance has got a steady, poised, calming effect, which you pick up the sign. So of course, remember, we're not being too materialistic about that. It's not exactly about what it looks like from the outside, what it feels like. What upright feels like. Clearly we're not straight lines, we're constant curves and bends. That's what it feels like. And you pick up the sign, which is the underlying, the single unifying quality behind all that, and it is going to be balance, openness, stability, which is not locked, ease. You pick up the sign, ease, stability, whatever the sign comes to you, whatever your mind, your heart picks up. And that is sustained, so you tune into that so that the various agitations that run through the mind, like how long should I do this for? What's the one I'm supposed to be focusing on? Where does this go? All that kind of worry stuff. It touches the sign of ease, and the sign of ease begins to dissolve it. Right? So the sign of ease or balance is a nice wide field with no differentiations in it. There's no good ease and bad ease. It's just ease. Right? Simple. And that simple, unifying quality, right? This is what we call samadhi. Then the various should I, shouldn't I, what's supposed to happen, what am I going to happen, what am I doing this, all that stuff, touches into that and begins to dissolve. As long as you meet the agitations with that quality of balance, or openness, or stability. Now if you meet the agitation with a don't be agitated, that creates agitation. If you meet the agitation with you're not doing it right, that creates agitation. Because that's not the sign of stability, balance and ease, is it? It's a sign of got to get it right, getting it wrong, da-da-da-da-da. And that just creates more agitation. Right? So it's not the person that corrects the practice, it's the sign of wholeness that does the practice, that is the really effective medium. The balance in the whole field is the the corrective medium, not the person. And the thing you recognize you do any kind of skill or craft or standing meditation is, if you're trying to get it right, you're likely to get it wrong. Because as soon as you get trying to get it right things start to lock up, and you get tense, and you get impatient, and then you make mistakes. And you make mistakes, you get more tense and impatient. And so, now if you don't get tense, stay balanced, likely you still make mistakes. But instead of getting more tense, there's the mistake. Too much pressure there, imbalance there, and it adjusts, just with the acknowledgement. So yes, there is an assessment, yes, there is a corrective, right? But the corrective is not something that gets you more tense and uptight and nervous. It's a corrective, it's a compassionate corrective. We call it compassionate, but it's just, that's what the field does. If you're open to it, it receives you, it receives your individuality, and Okay, just too much gripping there. Not noticing that. Notice that. Release that. Yeah, that's better. And so it goes. Oops, too fast. So sometimes in my, not on retreat, but in other times I practice calligraphy because I find it helpful coordinating the eye, the body, the mind, and the materiality, the ink, the pen, nib and so forth. Just getting to sync, to line up. So I'm thinking, okay, it'd be nice to write a little piece of a sutta. Okay, right, get this sutta, write those few lines down. Whoops, mistake. Too much ink on the nib. Okay, get the sutta, get the paper. Right, not my thing. Oops, move too fast. Okay, try another one. Get the sutta, get a bit of paper. Then again, slow down, relax. Oops, tension in my shoulder. Okay. Okay, get the sutta. Okay, just get one word. Right, one word. Okay, one word. Oops, push too fast. Okay, just get down to one letter. Can you do the letter O without getting in a state about it? Okay, just 2 strokes. One down, one. That's better. Just take that one, that one, that one. You've got the whole thing in mind. You're going to do the sutta, but at the same time, you realise that will kind of take care of itself if you get body, mind, nib, ink, paper to line up. That's it. And the way that's the practice. The end result takes care of itself. When it's whatever it is. So yes, there's a kind of a right and a wrong, but the right and wrong are not associated with juddering feelings of failure, idiot, never going to do this, too difficult for me, I can't. They're not associated with reverberations around the sense of self, which is called papancha. The mind, the citta, tumbles over into its own agitations and makes a person out of them. Right? It starts to agitate, and then it tumbles into that agitation and makes a person out of it. It's made a person out of it. The person is an agitated person who gets agitated about their agitation, or shuts the whole thing down and says, "I can't do it," and goes somewhere else. Distracts. There's papancha, proliferation. But the person doesn't make the mistake. It's unknowing or uncertainty or imbalance, inattentiveness, not feeling the whole thing, is where the error begins. But as it reverberates, citta makes that into a person. And this is partly because it's a social conditioning, isn't it? It's like that. From early age, errors, you got it wrong. Maybe blame, punishment, rejection, scolding. You got it wrong. And then you have to try harder to get it right. Otherwise you're not as good as so on, or you're rejected. So that habit of identifying with these intentions and actions is deeply ingrained to be a personal error, and then of course the person is desperate not to make those errors. They don't want the blame, they don't want the rejection, they don't want the feeling of failure. Even nobody else cares. And so it's certainly my own experience that, if somebody does something they think is, make a mistake, they maybe Upatak drops a cup or something, They don't generally, but maybe something like that. And they say, oh yeah, that wasn't right. Try better next time. But there can be that kind of feeling of disaster that comes into it. And then the really shame and guilt, trying to get it right and tensing up. Get so tense they drop another cup. Or something else. I think, well, it wasn't such a big disaster, it just... Or some things people would say, oh, I'm sorry I said that yesterday. Did you? I don't remember it. I wasn't very respectful. Huh? Oh, what? I don't even notice it. Okay. Oh yeah, I see what you mean. Oh yeah, right. Oh well, no, I didn't take it that way myself. Just, But how people who seem to me to do rather well can find fault, because as soon as they notice something is not, it was compulsive or it was not what as good as they thought it should be, even if maybe it wasn't that bad, the reverberation of anxiety sets up guilt. And generally for the person who's extremely blamed or insecure in that respect, the default is to go to being blamed. That's the reflex. Because you know how to deal with that. You close down, shut down, make yourself small, lock up. So if you've got those reflexes of having been, in a threatened situation, some kind, insecure, not welcome, not appreciated, not associated with the wise, but with people who are a bit of a state themselves, likelihood is when you make something that you feel is wrong, whether it's wrong or not, you assume it's wrong. And then the blame comes in, because that's the reflex. And then you tighten up around that. And maybe distract. So this gets ingrained. So we have to learn how to learn in all things, including, of course, the skills of meditation. So instead of going to the default pattern of, getting it wrong, therefore closing down and distracting, going somewhere else, and then feeling bad about that, and more blame, guilt, so distract again, or say you can't do it, it's too difficult for me, it's impossible, too high a standard, then you're setting this incredibly high standard we've got to follow, blaming other people, blame the Buddha, why did he make it so difficult? Just notice that feeling of can't quite do it. And what happens there? A bit of stirred, agitated, can't quite do it, not getting it right. Okay, and we'll just go to the field of the body. And stand, sit, walk, breathe. And touch into the sign of balance, uprightness, and let that receive the agitation rather than the person receive the agitation. You see what I mean? It's not that you shouldn't be agitated. No, you can't say you should. You can't use should and shouldn't on this stuff. It's reflexive. It's not a choice. You don't decide to get agitated. So when agitation, feeling fed up occurs, you can't say you shouldn't be that way. That furthers the cycle. Is what's happening? What's happening with that? They always want me to make it right. They always expect so much of me. They expect me to be perfect. They really want me to do it. I've really got to work so hard to be perfect. Wait a minute, what's happening? Oh, body's, closing down. feet on the ground, breathing in, breathing out, opening the field. And you realize all those they, she, he, that we carry are phantoms of our own contraction. Of not being able to own our own, or this system's agitation. So it becomes they make me, or I'm not. Either of these voices are signs. So you pick up those signs. Right? The sign of the absent them. Is what? Undergoing quality hostility. The sign of the failing I. What's that? Ill will. Closing. Can we meet those signs instead of calling them people? Standing. The space all around me, completely open. The space doesn't care what I do. Path beneath my feet, totally open to me being there. Doesn't expect anything of me. Sky above my head, completely free and open. Not demanding I be anything. Oh, the theys and the I's begin to dissolve into the field. Right? So you use a form like that, standing, walking, sitting, generating a field of attention, with a sense of, balance, and then within that balance, the upright center begins to form, which is not an uptight center. It's just a sense of poise. Poise because we do realize just how sensitive this system is. It can just swing out of kilter. A few little ripple effects, memories, worries, mental stuff, old calming habits rise up. We can easily get knocked off kilter. So this is where you deepen your keel within those storms through field, center, quality, goodwill, absence of ill will. So it's also realizing equanimity, much unheralded or seemingly lofty attribute, upekkha. Equanimity is actually a very generous field quality. It's saying, mistake, okay, getting it right, okay, losing it, okay. It can catch it all and bring it back. Nothing falls outside that. And because he's completely losing it, okay, lost it, where are we now? And settle into that. Okay, stop the agitations, it's like that, and gradually things will draw together again. It's a very generous quality. It helps you to stop trying without collapsing. It's not about trying, it's not about going soggy. So often we're trying to have a meditation, it's often the experience of trying to have a meditation experience. Trying to experience something I'm not experiencing. And then you're always experiencing the sign of trying, isn't it? How does that feel? Is there a difference between trying and aspiration? Yes, there is. aspiration comes from accessing or the whole sense. And within this experience that's happening now, where is the most beautiful? Where is the brightest? Where is the most balanced? Yeah, we know all this. So you're referring to something actual, right? Whereas if you're trying, you're referring to something abstract. Example, I'm trying to live in a really perfect community. Well, that's going to be a disaster, isn't it? But I'm saying, this is the people I'm living with. Within all this, what is most beautiful in this actual situation? Yeah. They turn up. They cooperate. Yeah. They maintain precepts. Yeah. They don't give up. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Yeah. Then you pick up the sign, it's upright. And then you pick up it, you take that back into your own heart, attune into that. Yeah. Very important to cultivate. So the whole thing, let the centre form out of what is the most beautiful. That's gives you aspiration rather than trying. Because you are collecting or allowing to collect and focusing on the bright sign, the bright nimitta, which is not a little point of light, is a quality of heart. And you walk with that. And you notice, because this then is something, we have these formal periods, there's a group here, the fact it's great, in my opinion, I like it, because it very much establishes a firm external sign. Really, I find it very encouraging, very stable, supportive, quiet. Okay, now clearly in this retreat, we're not here all the time. What happens outside that? What happens when the bell rings? Do you maintain the sign? Or is it, well, that's the end of that. Are we going to something more compulsive or just go very soggy? Casual, do things drift a bit? Because is it possible to relax or soften the form without losing the brightness? And using that to moderate your behaviour. What you do in those so-called breaks. Remember, there are no breaks. Really, there's no, why I'm saying breath doesn't end, it just changes from pause, which is nice and open, into rising, pausing, shifting. Retreat, same. Sitting, then moving into a form, a closed form, open form. Closed form, open form. Closed form, open form. It's pretty much breathing in and out. And the open form, don't lose the field, It's like, it's not just woo, or really lose it altogether, lose the thread. The open form is still a form. It should maintain that same bright centre. There might be different qualities that are worth honouring. Like my attention to tidying up the monastery. Beautiful. Could be my studying a sutta. Beautiful. Could be my doing some yoga. Helps your body. Beautiful. So it doesn't have to be you've got a particular thing to do, but you're operating within something that still got that same sense of, like what the Mangala Sutta presents, are different skill forms that all operate around the same principle. It says, cultivating like this, even while living in the world, any world, one is not acting in worldly ways. Therefore, one is safe. Yeah. Safe, secure, interesting. You're safe from your corruptions. You're safe from yourself, from your obsessions, from your ignorance, from these asavas. And this is the highest blessing. So it's a cultivation, and this is our last day of this particular form. I hope some of these remarks over the last week can be helpful for you, help things shift or find balance. It's been certainly an honour to be able to offer, bring my mind into focus, and appreciation for everyone's respect to the form, practice, and all the efforts that go on behind to bring that form into focus. Naturally, anything one does or says is bound to somewhere could have negative effects, so again it's appropriate to ask forgiveness or recognize, my limitations in being here and teaching, and asking for your generosity to release anything that might have been afflictive in this session. So let's, and of course for yourselves, I find no fault with anyone here. So let's continue our practice and make good use of this particular opportunity to find our skillful sign and treasure it.